I didn't think of myself as a revenge type of person. Honestly, I was the opposite. I avoided drama, kept my head down, did my work, and tried to stay out of trouble. That's how I survived most of my life, especially at work. But there's something people don't tell you. Even the calmest person has a breaking point. Mine came because of Ethan Cole. We worked at a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas. Nothing fancy, just another office with open desks, bad coffee, and people pretending to love their jobs. I was a junior analyst, 2 years in, still trying to prove myself. Ethan? He was the golden boy. Confident, smooth-talking, always laughing a little too loudly at the boss's jokes. He knew how to play the game. People liked him. Managers trusted him, and somehow he always ended up one step ahead of everyone else. At first, I didn't have a problem with him. In fact, we got along. We grabbed lunch a few times, talked about sports, Netflix shows, normal stuff. He seemed like a decent guy, maybe a little full of himself, but nothing serious. That changed the moment he took something that wasn't his. It started with a project, a big one. Our team was assigned to analyze customer retention data for a major client. It was the kind of project that could get someone noticed, promotions, raises, real opportunities. I was excited. I worked on it day and night, built models, cleaned messy data, found patterns no one else had noticed. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid work. Ethan was assigned to the same project. At first, I thought it was a good thing. 2 people meant less pressure. But as the days went by, I started noticing something. He wasn't doing much. He'd show up late, leave early, spend more time chatting than working. Whenever I asked about his progress, he'd just smile and say, "I got it handled." I should have been suspicious, but I wasn't, because I trusted him. The night before the presentation, I was exhausted. I had everything ready. Slides, charts, conclusions. It wasn't perfect, but it was good, really good. Ethan walked over to my desk around 6 p.m. "Hey man," he said casually, "you got the final version? I just want to go over it before tomorrow." I didn't think twice. "Yeah, sure," I said, plugging in my flash drive. "It's all here." He copied the files, gave me a quick nod, and said, "We're going to crush it tomorrow." I actually smiled. "Yeah," I said, "we are." That was my second mistake. The next morning, I walked into the conference room feeling nervous but ready. Our manager, 2 senior executives, and the client were all there. Big moment. I took a seat, waiting for us to start. Ethan stood up. "I'll kick things off," he said confidently. I frowned slightly. That wasn't what we agreed on, but I figured maybe he just wanted to open. No big deal. Then he started presenting, slide after slide, my slides, my analysis, my conclusions, and not once did he mention my name. At first I thought maybe he'd bring me in later. He didn't. He kept going, explaining everything like it was his own work. I sat there, frozen, confused, then angry, then something worse, embarrassed. It felt like I didn't exist. Like all those late nights meant nothing. When the presentation ended, the room was impressed. "Great work, Ethan," one of the executives said. "Very thorough," the client added. Ethan smiled. "Thank you, I appreciate it." I couldn't believe it. I couldn't breathe. After the meeting, I followed him out into the hallway. "What was that?" I asked, my voice low but shaking. He turned to me, completely calm. "What do you mean?" "You didn't mention me. That was my work, too." He looked around, then leaned closer. "Look," I said quietly, "this is how things work. You help, I present. We both win." "That's not what happened," I snapped. "You took everything." He sighed like I was the problem. "Don't make this a big deal," he said. "You'll get your chance." I stared at him, disbelief turning into something darker. "You stole my work." He straightened up, his expression cold now. "Prove it," he said. And just like that, he walked away. That moment stayed with me. Not just what he did, but how easily he did it. Like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. For the next few days, I tried to move on. I told myself it wasn't worth it, but every time someone congratulated him, every time I saw him laughing like nothing happened, something inside me kept building, quietly, slowly, dangerously. A week later, Ethan got promoted. Of course he did. New title, better pay, more respect. Everything I had worked for, given to him. That was the moment something shifted in me. I stopped thinking about fairness, stopped thinking about doing the right thing. All I could think was, he doesn't deserve this. And then came the thought that changed everything. What if I take it all away from him? At first it felt wrong, too extreme, too much. But the idea didn't leave. It stayed in my head, growing stronger every day. I started paying attention to him, watching closely, and that's when I noticed something interesting. Ethan wasn't just a credit stealer. He was sloppy, careless, and most importantly, he wasn't as clean as everyone thought. One evening, I stayed late at the office. Most people had already left. The lights were dim, the building quiet. Ethan's desk was a few rows from mine. His laptop was open, unlocked. I stared at it for a long time. My heart started racing. This is a bad idea, I told myself. Walk away. But I didn't move, because another voice, louder this time, said, "This is your chance." Slowly, I stood up, walked over, sat down, and looked at his screen. Emails, reports, files, everything right there. I hesitated for one last second. Then I started clicking. And that was the moment everything changed. The moment I crossed a line I couldn't uncross. And I didn't realize it yet, but what I was about to do, it was going to hit him a lot harder than I ever intended. I should have walked away. Even now, when I think back to that moment, sitting at Ethan's desk, his laptop open in front of me, I can clearly see the point where I still had a choice. I could have stood up, closed the laptop, gone home, let it go. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned in. At first, I told myself I was just looking, just checking, nothing serious. That lie lasted about 30 seconds, because the moment I opened his email folder, I realized something. Ethan wasn't just taking credit for other people's work. He was playing a much bigger game. There were emails between him and a client, one of our biggest accounts. At first glance, everything looked normal. Updates, reports, numbers. But when I compared those emails to the actual data stored in our system, things didn't match. Not slightly off, completely different. He had been inflating results, making weak campaigns look successful, turning average numbers into impressive ones. And the worst part? The client believed him. I sat there staring at the screen, my heart pounding harder with every file I opened. "This guy is a fraud," I whispered. For a second, I felt justified, like everything he did to me wasn't just personal, it was proof of who he really was. But then another thought came in, clear, sharp, dangerous. This is how you take him down. I spent the next hour going through everything, carefully, quietly. I copied files onto a USB drive, reports, emails, performance data, anything that showed the difference between what Ethan claimed and what was actually true. The more I found, the more confident I became. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was exposure. At least that's what I told myself. Over the next few days, I acted normal, went to work, did my tasks, kept my distance from Ethan. But inside, I was building something, a plan. I reviewed all the files again at home, organizing them, lining everything up so it was clear and undeniable, side-by-side comparisons, real numbers versus reported numbers. It was all there. Anyone who looked at it would see the truth, and once they did, Ethan's perfect image would fall apart. I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong. He deserves this, I repeated. He did worse to you. That's how I justified it. That's how I ignored the uneasy feeling in my chest every time I opened those files. The plan was simple. Anonymous email, send everything to upper management and HR. Let them handle it. Clean, quiet, controlled. Or at least that's what I thought. The night I sent the email, I sat in my apartment staring at my laptop for almost an hour. My finger hovered over the send button. This was it. No going back. I took a deep breath. This is justice, I whispered to myself. And then I clicked. The next morning felt strange, like the air was heavier. I walked into the office, trying to act normal, but my eyes kept scanning the room. Ethan was at his desk, laughing with someone, relaxed, confident, like nothing in the world could touch him. I almost felt ridiculous. What if nothing happens, I thought. What if they ignore it? For a moment, doubt crept in. Maybe I had done all this for nothing. Then, around noon, everything shifted. Our manager came out of his office, looking serious. "Ethan," he said, "can you come with me for a minute?" Ethan stood up, still calm. "Sure." They walked into the office. The door closed, and just like that, the waiting began. An hour passed, then 2. Ethan didn't come back. People started whispering. Something was off. By the end of the day, we got the email. Short, formal, cold. Ethan Cole is currently under internal review regarding discrepancies in client reporting. My stomach dropped. It worked. The next few days were tense. The office felt different, quieter. Everyone was talking, but no one knew the full story, except me. I knew exactly what was happening because I started it. By the 3rd day, the rumors got worse. "They found something big," someone whispered near the break room. "Apparently, it's not just one report," another said. "They're going through all his work." I stayed quiet, listened, watched. At first, I felt something close to satisfaction. This is what he deserves, I told myself again. But then it started going further than I expected. On Friday morning, we got another email. This one wasn't vague. Ethan Cole's employment has been terminated due to confirmed misconduct involving falsified reporting. Terminated. Just like that. Gone. I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. I had imagined this moment so many times, him getting exposed, him losing his position. But now that it actually happened, it didn't feel as good as I thought it would. Still, I told myself it was over. That was the end of it, right? Wrong. The following week, things got worse, much worse. The client involved, the one Ethan had been lying to, found out, not just about the reports, about everything, and they weren't happy. We lost the account, a huge account, millions of dollars. The office went into panic mode, meetings, damage control, stress everywhere. And then came the part I didn't see coming, layoffs. Due to the loss of a major client, that's how the email started. My hands felt cold as I read it. Several employees would be let go. Not just one person, not just Ethan, multiple people. Some of them had nothing to do with this. I sat there staring at my screen, feeling something I hadn't felt before. Fear. Real fear. "This wasn't supposed to happen," I whispered. "I just wanted to expose him, not this." A few days later, I saw one of my coworkers, Maria, packing her things. She looked exhausted. "I didn't even work on that account," she said quietly to someone. "I don't understand." My chest tightened because I understood better than anyone. That night, I couldn't sleep. For the first time, the thought hit me clearly, not as a whisper, not as a doubt, but as a full, undeniable truth. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I had wanted revenge, but I didn't think about the damage spreading, about how one action could affect people who had nothing to do with it. And the worst part? It wasn't over yet. Because a few days later, I saw Ethan again, and what I saw made everything feel even heavier. I didn't expect to see him again. After everything that happened, the investigation, the firing, the layoffs, I figured Ethan was gone for good. Out of the company, out of my life, out of my story. But life doesn't wrap things up that neatly. Sometimes it brings everything back just to make you face it. It was a Tuesday evening. I had just left work, mentally drained like always. The office felt heavier these days, quieter. People didn't joke as much anymore. Everyone was careful, tense, like one wrong move could cost them their job. And in a way, that was true. I walked into a small coffee shop a few blocks away. Nothing special, just a place I usually stopped at before heading home. I ordered, turned around, and there he was, Ethan, sitting alone at a corner table. For a second, I thought I was mistaken. He looked different. Not in some dramatic movie-style way, just worn down. His posture was slouched, his clothes were plain, no more sharp outfits, no more confident energy. He looked like someone who hadn't slept properly in days, like life had hit him all at once. My first instinct was to leave, just walk out, pretend I didn't see him. But something kept me there. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, maybe the need to see what I had done up close. Before I could change my mind, I walked over. Ethan. He looked up. For a moment, his eyes widened in surprise. Then he gave a small, tired smile. "Hey," he said. His voice didn't have that same confidence anymore. I sat down across from him. "How are you?" I asked. The question felt stupid the moment it left my mouth. He let out a quiet laugh. "That's a funny question," he said. We sat in silence for a few seconds. Then he looked down at his coffee. "I'm guessing you heard," he said. "Yeah," I replied. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I figured." There was no anger in his voice, no defensiveness, just exhaustion. And that made it worse. "I messed up," he said after a while. "I know that." I didn't respond. "I thought I could get away with it," he continued. "Just small changes here and there, nothing too big. Everyone does it, you know? At least that's what I told myself." He shook his head slightly. "Turns out I pushed it too far." His words hit harder than I expected, because I knew something he didn't. He didn't get caught by accident. He got caught because of me. "I didn't think it would blow up like this," he said quietly. "I thought maybe they'd warn me, maybe demote me or something." He looked up at me, but they didn't. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. "What happened after?" I asked, even though part of me didn't want to know. He leaned back in his chair. "I lost the job, obviously. That was just the start." He paused. "My girlfriend left a week later." I felt something twist in my chest. "We were already stressed, and then this happened. It just broke everything," he added. He gave a small, bitter smile. "Hard to stay with someone who just lost everything." I didn't know where to look. Every word he said felt heavier, like it was pressing down on me. "I've been applying for jobs," he continued. "But you know how it is. People talk, especially in this industry." He let out a breath. "No one wants to hire the guy who got fired for falsifying data." That sentence stayed in the air, and for the first time, I really saw it. Not just the idea of revenge, not just the moment I hit send, but the full picture, the consequences, the ripple effect. I didn't just expose him. I didn't just get even. I changed his life completely. And not just his. Maria losing her job, the team struggling, the office atmosphere falling apart, all of it traced back to one decision, one click. "I guess I had it coming," Ethan said quietly. That sentence broke something inside me, because maybe he did deserve consequences. Maybe he did deserve to be exposed. But did he deserve everything that followed? Did everyone else? I looked at him, really looked this time, and all I could think was, this went too far. For a moment, I thought about telling him the truth, right there. I was the one who sent that email. The words sat at the edge of my mind, but I couldn't say them. Because what would that change? It wouldn't give him his job back. It wouldn't fix his life. It wouldn't undo anything. It would just shift the weight from me hiding it to him knowing it. So I stayed quiet, and that silence felt heavier than anything else. After a while, he stood up. "Well," he said, "I should get going." I nodded. "Yeah." He hesitated for a second. Then he said, "Take care, man." Man. Not angry, not blaming, just normal. And somehow that hurt the most. I watched him walk out of the coffee shop. Slow steps, shoulders slightly hunched. Gone. I sat there for a long time after he left. My coffee went cold. My thoughts didn't. I kept replaying everything in my head. The project, the betrayal, the anger, the plan, the email, the fallout. At every step, I had a chance to stop, to think, to choose differently. But I didn't, because I was focused on one thing, getting even. And I did. I got exactly what I wanted. He lost everything. So why didn't it feel like a win? That night, sitting alone in my apartment, I finally said it out loud. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Not because he was innocent, not because I was completely wrong, but because I didn't think about the full cost. Revenge feels simple when it's in your head. You imagine a clean result. They hurt you, you hurt them back, done. But real life isn't clean. It spreads, it grows, it hits people you didn't aim for. And once it starts, you can't control how far it goes. I still go to the same office, same desk, same routine. But things feel different now, quieter, heavier, like something invisible changed. And every now and then, when I think about Ethan, I don't feel anger anymore. I don't feel satisfaction either. Just one thing, regret. Because the truth is, revenge didn't fix anything. It just created a different kind of damage. And this time, I was part of it.